What's going on, guys? Nick Shea rocking with you today. Man, you are looking beautiful. I mean, with your bed head and, or is it bed hair, bed head? Either way, you are looking fantastic today. I've got spring break this week, which means that I can just sit down and focus on you guys. Well, I still gotta do some lesson planning, but I'm gonna focus a little bit more on this channel over the break and hopefully bring everything back around. But today we are talking about 6 ways to start off your morning productively, because we talked about how to wake up early and how to quit caffeine, both of which occur in the morning. I mean, most people drink caffeine in the morning, but your morning is where you set the tone for your day. So if you start off the morning well, then the rest of your day will probably go well. So these 6 ways are kind of gonna be more like, I'm gonna give them to you in steps, although they aren't necessarily sequential, and you don't have to do all of these things to have a productive morning, but it's kind of how I do them, so maybe you can adapt it to your life as well. Step number 1 is don't snooze, all right? Because if you press the snooze right off the bat, then you admit that you've already failed that day before you even do anything. I mean, granted, I'll admit, there are some days where I do press the snooze, but on those days, I end up being very unproductive because it feels like I've failed. And I recently watched a video by Peter McKinnon, and he was talking about discipline in there because he posts 3 videos every single week, and I'll have his channel linked up here. He's got a lot of cool stuff if you are a video creator or a photo taker, if you're a photographer. So he creates a video 3 days a week, and even on the days where he feels like he shouldn't, or he feels like he doesn't want to do anything and that he should put it off, he still does, even if it's not that great of a video, just for the discipline of creating, because it's a lot easier to actually create something if you're constantly creating. And it's a lot easier to press the snooze button if you keep pressing the snooze button. But it goes the exact opposite way as well. It's a lot easier to not press the snooze button if you start not pressing the snooze button, right? So habits are sometimes referred to taking 21 days to form. There's others that say 66 days, but in reality, it just depends on the habit, and also depends on the person on how long it takes you to form a habit. But if you don't press the snooze this morning, or I mean, if you already did, then it's too late. But if you don't press the snooze tomorrow, then it gets easier the next day, and then the next day, because slowly and slowly, you're building it into a habit. That's the thing that people often mistake discipline for. You're not really disciplined, you've just built in a lot of habits that make it seem like you're a disciplined person, and waking up early is one of those habits. Not pressing the snooze button is one of those habits. Another thing, by not pressing the snooze button in the morning, it helps create a positive spiral, because how I see it a lot of the times in the morning whenever I wake up, if I press the snooze button, then it starts a negative spiral because it feels like I'm already behind on the day, so I'm like, well, I might as well just not do anything, which is really counterintuitive, I know, but that's just how my brain works. And I know that's probably how it works for a lot of you as well. But whenever I actually get up, it feels like I have accomplished something, and it can start a positive spiral going up. So don't press the snooze and start a negative spiral going down. Step number 2, phones. Toss them. You don't need them in the morning, all right? Because whenever you hop on your phone, then you already start distracting yourself from all the things that you need to do. But you should not check your phone, because there are a lot of people that end up getting on their phone whenever they wake up and thinking that they'll just check Twitter, or maybe they are being a little bit more optimistic and they say they'll just check their email. But then 50 minutes later, and they have gone through YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram 5 times over. It's just like I talked about with the spirals. If you immediately get on your phone, then that starts a negative spiral of distraction and procrastination. I've fallen into it plenty of times, but you should get into the habit of just throwing it away. Just hide it somewhere that you can't see it. Then you'll be so much more productive. Step number 3, get moving. Do some sort of exercise. Do yoga, go running, lift some weights, just do body weight exercise. Do whatever you can to get yourself moving. Especially because if you're like me and you followed the video that I had the other week about quitting caffeine, then it can be difficult to wake up in the morning because you don't have that caffeine. By going and moving a little bit, then it helps to wake you up and get some blood flowing and start a positive spiral so that you are much more awake and alert whenever you actually go to do some of your work. And another thing, after you exercise, your brain releases brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which is responsible for the growth of new brain cells. So if you're a student or you're just learning something, then by exercising before you do so, it can help to actually improve how much you retain by creating new neural connections and making them much stronger. Another option that you can do that goes along with get moving, although it's not necessarily exercise, is taking cold showers. Now, I didn't want to blatantly recommend this one because I did that for 30 days. I mean, it wasn't 30 days straight. I kind of skipped some days at the back end. I did it for 30 days and it was absolutely miserable. So it's something that is very difficult to actually get into and stay committed to. But if you can get yourself to do that, then it is super beneficial because it will definitely wake you up getting in that freezing cold water. And also I noticed that my skin was a lot nicer because I wasn't taking the hot showers in the morning. And there are a bunch of other supposed benefits that you'll find online. I didn't find any outside of those two, but you might want to experiment just to see how it affected you. And like I said, I just did it for 30 days, so if I had done it longer, then I might have seen more benefits. Step number 4, and technically this isn't really a step either, but step number 4 is eating intentionally. Now, what do I mean by eating intentionally? I don't just mean eat healthy. The main thing that I'm getting at with this is I know a lot of people that they don't eat breakfast in the morning, mainly because they don't wake up in time to give themselves time to actually eat. And then their eating schedule is completely whack. So basically they aren't getting appropriate nutrition or planning appropriately for their meals. Now, I'm not gonna say that you absolutely need to wake up and eat a breakfast in the morning. While that is good to help give you the energy to get started on your day, it's not necessarily something that is required. Where it gets tricky is if you eat breakfast one day and then you don't the next day, or you just eat something small one day. And the reason that this is a problem is because it doesn't allow your body to adapt to what you are feeding it if you aren't feeding it on a consistent basis. So instead of skipping breakfast unintentionally, skip it intentionally and do some sort of intermittent fast. Intermittent fasting is whenever you eat for a specific window and then you don't eat in the periods outside of that. A common one is not eating for 16 hours and then eating for 8 hours, or you don't eat the whole 8 hours, you just eat in that 8-hour window. Or you can do 18 hours of no eating and then 6 hours of eating, 24. The idea and why this is much better than unintentionally skipping meals is because it allows your body to get used to when you are giving it energy, right? So it will start naturally having energy in the morning just because it knows that it's not going to be getting any food, so it will be supplying its own energy within your glycogen stores. But if you aren't one of those people and you do eat breakfast in the morning, then obviously you want to make sure that it is a healthy breakfast. Whatever works for you, as long as you're eating healthy and cutting out all the processed sugar and all the processed carbohydrates. Make sure you're not eating any donuts and stuff like that. Step number 5. turn off the noise. Now, this can be in the form of meditation. It will actually help you focus a little bit more whenever you get to your work, which is why I like doing it towards the end of my morning, because one, it helps me focus whenever I actually go and get to work, but it's also given me a little bit more time to wake up, because if I start off the morning by meditating right after I wake up, then I'll most likely just fall asleep while I'm meditating. So I want to give it a little bit of time before I actually go and meditate so that I can be much more alert and try and clear out my brain of all of its thoughts. But you don't necessarily have to do that. All you really need to do is just sit there and chill. Just make sure you're not listening to anything, because you're constantly seeking some form of distraction from our thoughts. And while clearing your head is still ignoring those thoughts, it helps you get a better control over your mind. But if you're just allowing yourself to sit there and think, then you can think through all the things that you've been pushing off or avoiding so that you will be better able to actually solve them. Step number 6, learn something. One of the values that I place a really high priority on is being a lifelong learner, because as long as you are learning, then you are growing. And if you're listening to this channel, then you are probably someone that wants to continue to grow and better themselves throughout their life. So by starting off your morning by learning something, it helps you to stay in touch with that value and also start off your day by improving. And there are many ways that you can learn something in the morning. Obviously, you can read a book. I'm studying Korean right now because I plan on going over to Korea. And one of the things that I do is I listen to a podcast on my way to school, which is kind of work for me right now. But they can be a great way to make use of your time while you are driving. And you can also go to some sort of domain or website like Skillshare or Brilliant, or somewhere where you can actually sign up and then enroll in a course, or not necessarily even enroll in a course, just watch content that is teaching you something. But whether you are reading, listening, or watching, learning something whenever you wake up in the morning is a great way to become more productive and probably also happier and maybe richer if you read rich money books. If you read books about money. One last thing that I wanted to say, because it's something that I've fallen into a time or two before, is don't stuff a lot of things into your morning routine, because there was a time where my morning routine took like 2 hours, and then I would end up putting off the work that I actually intended going to. And I know this isn't gonna be the case for everyone, but sometimes it felt like I did so much in my morning routine because I wanted to avoid actually getting to work on these videos or homework and that sort of thing. So if you find yourself kind of procrastinating at the end of your morning routine because you don't actually want to get to work, then you might want to push some of this stuff back to later in the day. That's all that I've got for you today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, then please pound that like button, subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you in the next one.